Welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast with your hosts, Joshua Poniatowski and Alex Taylor. Let's talk football.
Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast. My name's Joshua Poniatowski. With me, my counterpart, Alex Taylor.
What up?
So this week, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we recorded, but this week we are going to be talking about the first round draft recap, talking about the impact of fantasy, first round picks, where they went, impact, results, how that impacts your fantasy team. But before we get into that, we have a very important discussion to have, and it's about 100 men versus one gorilla. I'm sure you all have heard about this floating around the internet and people not believing that 100 men can get the job done, but I've created a little twist for it.
They totally could. All right, give me the twist.
So the twist of this is going to be more football focused. And before I tell you what we're going to do, I want to break down the kind of combine stats of a gorilla. So if a silverback gorilla, was to show up to the NFL combine, like what would it look like from a production standpoint?
Okay.
So he would come in measuring about 5'8" right? He's kind of a short guy, right? 5'8",
his legs are
5'9".
stocky. Yeah, he's not.
Yep.
They're not used to upright standing that as much,
400 pounds. So that's where he comes in with that weight. Yeah, that would be immediately the largest person to ever exist in the NFL. Would be that guy. His arm length is about 40 to 42 inches, which gives him a wingspan about 8 feet to 8.5 inches. So we're talking Victor Wembanyama wingspan, right? Like insane, massive wingspan. And that's where most of his lifting and weight is. The 40-yard dash, 4.5 to 4.7. Right, not crazy fast, but still getting the job done, right? A 400-pound guy running 4.5.
That size, that is impressive.
It's pretty dang fast.
Put some respect on him.
Bench press. Yeah, bench press 225. He would be putting it up about 60 to 70 pounds, which from an NFL perspective, the most ever done was about 51, I think it was. So he would monster. He'd break that immediately. So now that you know a little bit of combine
ideally he would probably be, I would say, the ideal nose tackle, just from a run stuffing ability.
For sure.
Because I mean, the height is a little bit you want to, you're not gonna be able to block as many passes. Quarterback can see over you, which is a little bit of a negative, but he's moving that pocket in immediately, and then with that arm's reaching out both sides.
Yeah, he's 8.5-foot reach.
2 gaps.
Yeah.
He's holding 2 gaps easily. He can
Absolutely.
arm tackle all day, every day. Probably the ideal nose tackle.
He would be the elite Travis Hunter of the draft, because you would have to play him both ways, right? I mean, imagine putting him in at running back, just like a Mike Allscott.
He'd be the fridge. Just
exactly. Type of style.
Elite nose tackle, and then you need him to get on there, score that touchdown. He could probably just jump over it too. But
unstoppable. But the way this is going to work, so we have 100 men and we have one gorilla. Now it's going to be a little bit different because those 100 men are going to be a football player. So I'm going to give you the football player. So all 100 of them are this football player.
Okay, it's not a spectrum
so all 100,
of men.
Nope, not a spectrum.
Duplicate,
all
100 duplicates or 99 duplicates of the original man. Okay.
Yes. So
you look at this guy's stats, or?
Well, I will give you their weight and their height. So I'll give you the weight and the height. I got about 7 of them on this list. We're going to run through them. I really just want you to give me...
Who's got the best chance first? Is that it? Or who do I think could, or who do I think couldn't?
Yes, I would say who do you think could, who do you think couldn't? I would say you don't need to go in too much detail because I got us about 7 of them, but yes, you think this guy's got it, or no, he is losing to this gorilla, 100 of them. It seemed like you were pretty confident before about the 100.
Well,
so we'll see how this turns out.
On a full spectrum of man, a little bit of everything going on. I mean, 100 Vita Veas is definitely taking out a gorilla. That's lock that in. Is one of these 7 going to be Tez Johnson by chance?
It is not. No, it's not Tez Johnson. No.
The lightest, the smallest man in NFL history, or at least in current standing.
Vita Vea was originally on the list, and I bumped him for somebody else, but you'll see why.
He's automatic.
Yeah. All right, so player number 1, Deuce Vaughn, running back for the Cowboys. He is 5'6". He's one of the 5'5", 5'6", one of the shortest running backs in the league, weighing about 176. So weighing about 176 pounds. 5'5", 5'6". So he's a little bit stockier. So do you think he has a chance? 100 of him versus Gorilla.
See, my only issue, and why I'm going to defend the men pretty adamantly, is just on a stamina position. I just don't know if a silverback gorilla has the stamina to get through 100 men.
All right.
Given, Deuce Vaughn isn't that large of a man. I'll give this one just because I don't know what's coming. I'll give this one to the gorilla, okay? Because I'm assuming we'll get some bigger guys coming. So I'll give this one to the gorilla.
Absolutely. And now you got to remember there's a psychological aspect to this too. So if there's 100 of you standing around and you see 10 guys just get their heads ripped off, you're like, you know what? I'm probably going to sit this one out.
Well, so that's part of the equation. Are we confined in some death pit and the rules are you're literally not getting out of here till the other one's donezo? Because if you got that in the back of your mind, if you can escape, obviously no one's gonna willingly go against a silverback gorilla. If you can escape, that's quick out. But
let's say there is money involved. So if you collectively as a team win, so let's say each person is $100, right? And $1 million. Sorry, $1 million. So you have 100 men. 100 million on the line, and as each man gets eliminated, that is now more into the pot.
Yeah, Squid Game style. I get it. Yeah, Squid Game style.
So pretty substantial.
But then people have the option to bail to nope out of there. Is that going to be
you know what? Yeah,
maybe 20 out of that 100 are
fighting.
Nah.
After they see people get their heads ripped off, right?
But here's the thing: gorillas, they eat bananas all day. I'm not saying they can't kill and wouldn't, but it's they're really not.
What does their diet have to do with
because
this?
I just don't think they're designed to shred through humans. I don't think they have the instincts as much as people think they do. I think they're protective, sure, but they're just not. They're not meat eaters. A bear might be tougher because a bear's I'm hungry. I'm going through all y'all.
But if this guy gets attacked, this gorilla, he's gonna fight back. He's not just gonna stand there. So you're trying to accurately take this guy down. So.
I just don't think they're as ferocious as maybe people are hyping him up to be.
Oh man, you're really selling out on the gorilla here. I thought it would be the other way around, but
Deuce Vaughn is a little. Deuce Vaughn, I'll give that one gorilla. Yeah. I'll give that one gorilla. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So number 2 is Xavier Worthy, breakout wide receiver, rookie, Chiefs. He's 5'11". He's a little bit taller than Deuce Vaughn, but he's 165. So he's a tiny guy.
All right, that one's gorilla. That one's gorilla.
Gorilla. Okay. All right. Now league winning. So talking prime Christian McCaffrey. This was before he got injury. He's sitting about 5'10", 5'11" range, 210 pounds. So prime CMC.
Damn, he's
this is when he was running all over. Yeah, he's stocky dude.
Stocky dude. I think this is right around that cusp where I think the numbers take over. I think the numbers and the stamina required for the gorilla won't cut it. I think CMC survives.
Okay, so CMC's a winner.
Some of maybe 34 of the 100 CMCs survive that.
Okay, so you're looking at sizes now. Now I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball here, okay?
Okay.
So the next person is 6'4", 215 pounds, right? So taller, larger. It's Joe Burrow, though. So NFL quarterback, not elite playmaker when it comes to running over people or being aggressive, right? A little bit more squishy when it comes to the that type of position. So
that height,
do you think
I'm just
that
picturing
changes?
The smothering mountain of bodies on top of this gorilla. I think the height helps you. Height, and he's got that weight. He's got that 215. He's probably got, he's a quarterback's decent arm strength. So maybe he can throw a nice little jab in there. They all keep, get a couple punches in there. I still think Joe Burrow's take it.
All right. So
maybe not as convincingly as CMC's, but
you still got it. Okay. DK Metcalf, 6'4", 225.
Done. DK's for sure.
Easy. Done.
Easy.
Okay. No questions asked.
That dude is a specimen.
Yeah. Aaron Donald, 6'1", 280.
Dude,
he would be my number one,
50
honestly.
50 Aaron Donalds for sure. Yeah.
If I had to pick one person to fight the silverback gorilla as 100 people, it would be Aaron Donald. Like, even though he doesn't come in as the most weight in what I'm about
but he's
to
just
share. But yeah,
solid. Just
yes,
built
he's
firm.
so strong. And then last but not least, number 6, Tristan Wirth at 6 foot 5 inches, 320 pounds. So that's why I went a different direction than Dita.
All pro left tackle. He's got it. Come on, he's thick. He's thick. Again, like it's gonna take a lot of stamina for the gorilla to get through. I get maybe he's not like as muscularly built as like an Aaron Donald, but like he is a strong big man, and that gorilla's not. It's gonna take a lot to take down Tristan Wirth.
All right, so then we got a quick rundown. We have Deuce Vaughn is a no for the gorilla. 100 Deuce Vaughn, 1 gorilla. Gorilla wins. Xavier Worthy, also a no. Gorilla wins in that situation. League winning CMC. That's where the tide started to shift. You got CMC winning. Joe Burrow, even though he's not the most athletic man in the world.
Those were close, but I think they pull it out just based on the numbers. Just based on the numbers, they overwhelm the gorilla. Those two are kind of like that cusp zone.
And then moving forward, it really was no questions asked for you. DK Metcalf was the 100 DK Metcalf for taking it.
For sure.
100 Aaron Donald taking it,
Easy.
and then 100 Tristan Wirth taking it. So, okay. All right, good breakdown. That was fun. All right,
I'll put money on that too. I stand by it,
Okay. How much money, I guess? Yeah. That's the real question.
If we can make it happen. Do you disagree with any of those takes? Is there anyone that you would not take the player over?
I feel like CMC, Joe Burrow, I don't think I would take those two.
Okay.
Even, CMC's prime. DK is where I'd start to feel more confident. Like Aaron Donald, no questions asked. Again, he's my number 1 as far as like that list. And Tristan Wirth, I just think the size, he would just be able to get it done. I don't know, mentality-wise, offensive tackles are aggressive, but, they're not defensive guys, right?
Yeah,
they're a
because
little bit different from that mental
I'm saying the silverback gorilla is not incredibly strong, but it's going to take a lot for him to throw around or beat up a Tristan Wirth.
Tristan Wirth, for sure. Absolutely. But, I would give him a go on that, and I think DK could get it done, too. Just destroying that gorilla, so... All right. Well, that was fun. We're going to jump into each pick. What we're going to do is we're just going to go down the list. We're going to identify the pick of the draft. We're just going to start at the top, work our way down, talk about the impact. And the number 1 player, 101, whether people agree with it or not, was Cam Ward, Tennessee Titans, picked first off the board. How you feeling about his landing spot?
I mean, happy for the guy going first overall. That's a big lifetime achievement there. Is a very rare thing to do, but unfortunately, at least for redraft purposes, I have zero interest in Ward. I mean, he's going to a Titans team that is probably like, I don't know, bottom 5, just overall collection of playmakers. I mean, Pollard and Ridley have both had some flashes over their career, but they don't instill any sort of confidence that this will be an offense that is consistently moving the chains and scoring.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Dynasty, if it's super flex, maybe you're considering him in like the 101. But if it's a not super flex dynasty, I'm probably not taking Ward in the top 5.
Top 5. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, so for a rookie quarterback, I feel like his landing spot was one of the best, I would say, not necessarily from a personnel standpoint. Like you mentioned, he's got a little, older receivers and, not necessarily elite guys. He got some running back help. But the coaching situation, Brian Callahan, I feel like is a pass-heavy coach. He's a previous offensive coordinator for the Bengals. He runs a lot of 11 personnel sets. He really wanted to open up the playbook last year, but he just couldn't because he had Will Levis throwing passes from wherever he was, like even if he was
upside down from the ground.
Exactly. Yeah. All over the place. So he got his guy, but Cam Ward is not that. He's not going to be scrambling all over the place. He's not going to be running for, I think in college he only had 200-ish yards in his last year. So he's a pocket guy. He's going to get the job done with his arm from a fantasy perspective, which means if he doesn't throw 48 touchdowns or 45 touchdowns, and he might not be a top 5 quarterback ever type of thing. So I view him like quarterback 10, 20 range for his career moving forward. just solely out of him being a passing quarterback. But I do think is a good landing spot, and I'm hoping from a dynasty perspective he eventually kind of grows and builds. But
I assume if he shows enough promise this year that he might be the real deal, then obviously they would just be smashing like wide receivers and stuff for him in the years to come. So just for right now, redraft, I'm like he's basically not really relevant. Dynasty, it's like, all right, well, kind of if you need some quarterback help.
And as far as like you mentioned wide receiver help, I don't know if you heard, but a trade actually just went down today with the Cowboys. I figured we'd just mention it. Cowboys went out. Jerry actually made some waves, made some moves, went out and traded for George Pickens from the Steelers. And honestly, some of us saw the writing on the wall, right? They traded for DK. They were like, all right, might be time to move on.
But they still don't even have a quarterback. Like, I just have no idea what the Steelers' like end game is here. Like, there's no way they're like a good offense, good team. Their defense will probably be solid, but like, there's not gonna be anything relevant. I'm happy for CD and Dak getting another playmaker. I think this really helps Dak's value going into next year. CD like maybe loses some targets, but it could also help to have someone that scares the defense on the other side of him. So.
Yeah, I really think Turd Ferguson is the negative, repercussions of this trade. Him losing targets, because I was higher on him than most guys. He underproduced last year, but again, that's because he had Cooper Rush throwing him the ball.
Yeah.
But I feel like this trade is really going to impact that target share. And I was hoping he's going to have a bounce back year. But yeah, it'll be good for Dak, and we've both been high on Dak. So.
And because they only got a third and like a fifth, but then also give up a seventh. But it's like if they just wait a year and Pickens goes in free agency, they probably would have gotten a third or maybe fourth back comp pick anyways. So it just didn't really seem like they got like a ton of value for like a pretty good player. I mean, he is a head case, so who knows? Maybe, and they know more than anyone else. So maybe they just were like, hey, we really need to offload this guy. He's Looney Tunes, and that could be true. So we'll see.
And to say the Steelers are not relevant, they're always relevant. They always make the playoffs, whether they're exciting about it or not. But hey,
10-7, losing the wild card round. So. Yeah, Mike Tomlin is like a slightly better Jeff Fisher when he was just going 7-9 with the St. Louis Rams year in, year out. Yeah. Mike Tomlin's just he's the standard is the standard.
He's a prestige coach, respected by players and, GMs and all that good stuff. So, all right, well, we got a little off track, but I wanted to mention it since, we were talking about receivers. And that was a big trade that just went down, especially from a Pickens perspective. Next player we're going to jump into is Travis Hunter, the elite talent. The Jags moved up for this man, picked him at the 102. How you feeling about Travis Hunter?
Yeah, he seems like a really fun guy.
I'm a fun guy. Obviously, I love the game of basketball. It's just more questions you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about myself. I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
And all the interviews and stuff, he's always smiling. He seems real jolly. So you definitely want to root for this guy. Right now for fantasy, he's kind of like a bit of a question mark. They're saying he's going to predominantly be a wide receiver, but we kind of need to see that if that's actually transpired. Like, what if their main, what if they lose some depth on cornerback? All of a sudden, someone goes down to injuries and they find themselves in a jam. Are they going to be like, okay, we got to pivot and now we got to focus you more on defense, and then your offensive snaps take a hit? It's kind of a wild card there. New coach, Liam Cohen. He did run a fun offense in Tampa last year. Can he replicate that this year with T-Law at the helm instead of my boy Baker? Who knows? T-Law's been kind of like a little hot or cold his whole career so far. Drafting Hunter early this year is just kind of a leap of faith. It's kind of like it could go very well, but there could also be a case where it just doesn't pan out.
And last year, when we talk about redraft, rookie wide receivers did exceptionally well based on, look at Ladd and Neighbors and BTJ. think there is one more, but yeah, I mean, exceptionally well. So yeah, I mean, I agree though. I am worried that his offensive snap production will be impacted by the cornerback hole. The Jags have a hole in cornerback. They absolutely need to fill that role. They drafted a third round guy to hopefully fill that. But why would you not use one of the best cornerbacks in the draft to actually play the position when that is an issue on your team? So I have no doubt he's going to be amazing on the offensive side of the ball. If it's an IDP league, I think he's the 101 from a smash standpoint, just because he has the cornerback rep
IDP
and
we
the
get
wide receiver.
both points.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord, yeah.
I think he goes over Jeanty personally. That's where I'd put him. But yeah, it's a little bit worrisome. Dynasty, he kind of moved down my rankings, kind of mid, 105, 106 for me because of that. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't think the Jags know what they're going to do with him yet. And he is wide receiver too. Like I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's, one of the greatest wide receivers to come out, and his analytics look great, but he is legitimately wide receiver 2 on this team. And people are comparing him to T. Higgins. Trevor Lawrence is not Joe Burrow, right? The Jags are not freaking the
Bengals.
The Bengals, yeah. Like, come on. So I just think let's curb expectations. Devontae Smith is probably a better comparison. I think that's being generous, but from a fantasy perspective. So yeah, it's a risk reward pick for sure in redraft and in dynasty, 100%. All right, next pick off the board was Ashton, Jeanty, running back, Las Vegas Raiders. He was the 106. How you feeling about Jeanty?
I mean, I just don't think you take an RB that early unless you plan to use him aggressively. Since 2012, there's been 7 RBs drafted in the top 10. Their combined average rookie season performance, 292 touches, 1,500 all-purpose yards, 11 touchdowns, and a full PPR points per game average of 17.9. Would I take Jeanty with the top 5 in redraft? Probably not, but I really wouldn't hold it against someone if they did. They'd be pretty bold. And then dynasty, any format, doesn't matter. He's the 101.
You're feeling 101. Okay. Yeah, they took him at 106. They're gonna the depth chart right now is Raheem Mostert. How old do you think Raheem is?
He's over, 30s for sure. 30.
He's
32?
33.
33,
He's 33 years old.
Yeah.
He's the running back 2 right now at the moment. Sincere McCormick and Zamir White, who we obviously
they all had shots last year. Nobody did anything.
Did not get it done. And he's moving into Pete Carroll's run focus offense. He is immediately a top 3 running back in Dynasty, which is crazy to think as a rookie. I truly believe, just from an opportunity standpoint. And in redraft, I do think he may be a top 3 running back in redraft too. I think he's going to be up there when we get around to draft time. Gibbs and Bijan, like I'm taking those 2 over Jeanty, but I do think he's in that,
about
that
Saquon?
3 to 4 range. Okay, so 3, 4, yeah. So I'd say 3 to 4. Yeah,
I'd say he's probably my 4 or 5. Yeah.
You could argue Derrick Henry, that type of situation, but age and other things that come in, even though that man lasts forever. But yeah, he's going to be a top 5 running back in redraft, no questions asked. And I feel like you got to feel good about the situation going in, and just all his numbers from college are just ridiculous.
Absurd.
Like his analytics are, top. We're talking about one of the best prospects, top 5 in the past maybe 10 years or so. So now, do you think Boise State had anything to do with that?
Sure, less competition.
The conference. Yeah.
I mean, you can make a case for that, but I don't know. You can also just watch the guy run and just watch him shoot people out of their shoes.
Watch tape. I know, crazy concept. Yeah, he's elite. I mean, bouncing off guys. Even when he played Penn State and some of the other guys in the, in their out of conference games and during the playoff, he still showed he could get it done.
It was a fun NFL draft. I feel like it was kind of the most like RBs going early we've seen in a long time. The pendulum's kind of finally started to shift. It also just seems like there's a lot of talent this year that maybe hasn't been here or there lately. So. But it's kind of fun to see. Like I said, the NFL's team is not taking an RB at the 7th pick unless they think he's elite and plan on using him aggressively.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the running back depth. So last year, the only running back taken in the 2nd round was Jonathan Brooks. And he went to Panthers, I think, somewhat early.
Yeah.
This year there was I
think it was the first pick of the second round.
6 in the first 2 rounds, right? Somewhere around there, 5 or 6. So talking about a deep class. That's
trying to count. I'd say at least
that just speaks volumes for it, right? Yeah, at least 5. But yeah, I think it was right around 5 or 6. So with RJ going, a little bit later the Broncos, but yeah. So deep class, I think Jeanty's going to be great. Unless something crazy happens, I just don't see how he isn't a safe pick. Running backs are always risky, but yeah, good landing spot, good offense, productive RB1, 20 plus touches a game. Here he comes. All right, the next guy. This is honestly, I feel like this guy's been undervalued. McMillan, wide receiver, Carolina Panthers, pick 108, especially in Dynasty. But what do you think about Tet?
Well, it's kind of cool. Bryce Young, he was already kind of trending in the right direction after, the end of last season, really building hype for 2025. Then the Panthers go out and they add another first-round pick in the first round for the second straight year. Tet is probably, I would say, the consensus best pure receiver of the class. I know we had Travis Hunter. He went before him, but he was kind of more of the circusness of being able to do both positions. I think if it was purely based on receiving, Tet would have been the first receiver going. He does join kind of a muddy receiver room. I mean, we got Thielen, Leggett, and Coker all kind of battling for the looks, which, like I said, Bryce is trending up, but he hasn't really shown that he can support that many mouths to feed. So we got to see. Dynasty-wise, I think Tet makes a case for, the 102. But if Bryce scares you off and you want to go for a Hampton or Hunter or Henderson, I kind of get that too.
Yeah, I have him as my 102, unquestioned. If you need a wide receiver, he's my 102 after Jeanty, unquestioned. He comes in with everything you want from an elite wide receiver in the NFL. He has top 10 draft capital. His dominator score, which for those who don't know, dominator score is the amount of production he showed on his team. So the amount of touchdowns and receiving yards and total yards for Arizona in college was in the 30% range, which was one of the highest in this draft.
Target share essentially, but just expanded to all attributes.
Yeah, and stats actual production. When he was a sophomore, which is another big as a freshman, he broke out. He ended up taking touches from the 4th round pick that year, Jacob Cowing in Arizona. So he was immediately productive his freshman year, and that's what people look for in elite wide receivers. So just everything is there for this guy, and on tape, he is just great. I think he's going to step in to the wide receiver 1 role fairly quick. I think Xavier Leggett, they're not giving up on him yet. He led the team last year in routes run with about 417. Obviously, Adam Thielen's still around.
He kind of an up and down year, but yeah, obviously not going to give up on a first rounder 1 year after. But
yeah, and that's what I'm worried about when it comes to Coker. I think Jalen Coker was the better wide receiver than Xavier Leggett, and I was never high on Leggett, but he's just not going to see the opportunities, right? Unless he takes Thielen's position, I just don't see him getting those opportunities. So, but Tet, great landing spot. If Bryce figures it out, which we've seen him being productive the last 8 games of the season, this could be a wide receiver quarterback combo for the next 7+ years, essentially.
For sure.
A lot of upside with this guy. So, yeah, I love him. All right, the next drafted player was Colston Loveland, tight end, Chicago Bears. He was pick 10. He was high and went to the Bears. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I think most people were a little surprised to see Loveland go before Warren. Warren had that massive 2024 season, but Loveland was kind of more of just a steady producer in college, always around, always getting the job done. He's going to a Bears offense that's loaded with talent and possibility, but also kind of zero proof of work in the NFL. Caleb Williams kind of had a middling rookie season. Now they got that revamped O-line. Ben Johnson's there. But does he have what it takes to sustain 4 to 5 fantasy relevant players? DJ Moore, Rome, DeAndre Swift has got to eat. That's I like Loveland's prospects in dynasty format for sure. I mean, I think he's going to be, do well in this offense. Redraft, he's kind of like that back end, almost the top, top 10. It's, at least at like redraft for tight ends, you kind of like a solid like 5 or 6. And at that point, you're kind of you go for one of these young tight ends, or you go for like a more seasoned vet, like a Mandrews or a Kelsey. It's like that's the decision at like tight end 7, 8, 9. It's kind of like older vet or possible good rookie.
Talking about a redraft or dynasty?
Yeah, redraft.
Redraft? Yeah, no, you're going Kittle. You're going Andrews over these guys.
Well, Kittle's like tight end 3.
You're going old people over him for sure. I mean, I think so anyway. At this point, I agree. Dynasty perspective, obviously you can get a great tight end for years to come. But yeah, the competition. DJ Moore, Romaduzze, Luther Burden, right? They just drafted him in a second.
Yep.
I don't think he's as polished, so it'll take time for him to get there. But Cole Kmet is also still there, and he's honestly a better blocker than Loveland is. Tyler Warren is a better blocker than Loveland. So again, this is a real interesting pick. I think he'll get his opportunities, but it's very crowded. This might be a crazy take, but I could see Ben Johnson moving on from one of the guys that they have, and I don't think it would be a Dunze. I don't think it'll be Burden. I don't think it'll be Kmet. I think it's going to be DJ Moore. I feel like he might be preparing to trade DJ Moore, even though they did just sign him to a massive deal, I want to say, a year or two ago.
Yeah, that was before Ben Johnson was there. So
yeah, it was absolutely
same GM though, so you might not want to.
Yeah. And yeah, he won't have the rushing upside, right? You don't have Gibbs and Monty. You have DeAndre Swift. Not a slight on Swift, but there are no Gibbs and Monty when it comes to the backfield.
Yeah.
It might be more reliant on tight ends, especially around the red zone, from a touchdown perspective. So that could, I think, help him out, especially in redraft. But Dynasty, I like him a lot. He's my first tight end off the board, actually, in Dynasty. All right, next pick is Tyler Warren, tight end, Indianapolis Colts. Pick number 14, 2 top 15 tight end picks this year. Insane.
So you're saying you're taking in Dynasty, you're taking Loveland over Warren?
I am. Yep, I have him.
Mostly for the Ben Johnson aspect, or what?
I think Tyler Warren has gone into a terrible situation.
Sure.
I don't know how else to put this. Like, Anthony Richardson cannot throw the ball.
Sure.
And when we talk about Dynasty, I'm trying to think about the long game. So right now, I think Loveland has more upside and a better opportunity to impact fantasy sooner. Whereas Tyler Warren is attached to Anthony Richardson, and every single person on that team has been fantasy irrelevant because of him. So I think his value will drop. And so I'm not paying premium right now when I could maybe buy him, which I do believe you should buy him in weeks 5 or 6 type of thing. So I just think you can get him a better deal a little bit later. I'm playing the value game.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because even if it's like he's gonna suck this year, then they're gonna move on from Richardson probably next year, and then they gotta get a rookie, and then that guy's probably gonna need like a year or two to kind of develop. So he's really looking by like year 3 or 4 that he's possibly in some sense of a stable situation for his career. So
yeah, and I mean he is a better wide receiver than Colston, at least in college he was. He's a better blocker. People think maybe he's going to take over that backfield, the wide receiver core right away, but I just don't see it. Josh Downs is a great slot receiver. Like, he's one of the best slot receivers in the league. And, tight ends run out of the slot. We saw it last year with Gesicki, and that brought him value. Unless something happened to Josh Downs, that's not going to happen, right? So he's going to not have as many opportunities either. So I just don't think he has a great first year, but I'm buying Colts players. Like, in Dynasty, I mean, I'm giving away my strategy, but I'm buying Colts players. I think they're going to move on from AR, and you're going to be able to get some good value for these guys. And once that happens, they're going to be much better producers. So
yeah, I mean, it's tough for his outlook this year because they have decent playmakers around him. Like you said, Downs and Alec Pierce explodes every so often for a long touchdown. I mean, Pittman
too isn't a slouch.
At times looked good, at times. But then they had Jonathan Taylor, and then my issue with him is also with the fit in Indy, with A-Rich and Jonathan Taylor, they passed the ball in the red zone. I think it was like third or fourth least. So it's like they just aren't really a high passing offense once they get down in the red zone, which is really where a tight end is going to thrive.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense, right? You got JT and you have one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the league. That's a big dude. Like, why would you not, pound the rock down there? So, yeah, completely agree. And that's why he's, lower on my initial draft boards, but definitely a buy candidate for, maybe, 6 weeks into the season, 8 weeks, once the hype wears down, with him being a rookie in first round and all that good stuff. Yeah. I was going to show you a post about like what Sleeper posted and what somebody reacted to, but essentially, let me just explain it to you. Essentially what happened was Sleeper posted something and it said, who's going to stop this offense? And it was Michael Pittman, Anthony Richardson, Adon Mitchell, JT, Tyler Warren. It was just a picture of all the guys.
Yeah, their own quarterback.
Yeah, somebody replied and it was just a picture of what they posted, but zoomed in on Anthony Richardson. Yeah. And it was just like, this is who's going to stop this offense.
Yeah.
I just thought that was funny. But I think we all see the writing on the wall.
45% completion rate,
Yeah. Unless he does something crazy over the offseason, it's gonna be rough for them. All right, moving into next player. This is your team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh,
I thought this was a weird pick, but they were looking for the future. I'm gonna butcher this name. Emeka, Egbuka. Does that sound right?
I think it's
Emeka, Egbuka.
Yeah, no, it's Emeka, Egbuka.
Emeka.
Yeah, Emeka. I don't know, but that's just what I heard. Some other guy might have been. Sometimes there's stories of people who have like been playing the sports for like years, and they're finally like, "Yeah, you guys have been saying my name wrong for like 5 years," and I was like, "We can't change now." Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty adamant, and we had conversations, leading up to the, the NFL draft. I was pretty adamant the Bucs were not going to make a move at wide receiver. But this is why Jason Light, Bucs GM, gets paid the big bucks. He decided to focus more on the long-term success and team building with best player available over kind of the immediate team needs. So Emeka, this is a guy. He finished his college career as Ohio State's leader in receiving yards. This is the same Ohio State that has given us NFL legends such as Chris Carter, Michael Thomas, Scary Terry, Joey Galloway, all the young studs that are in the NFL right now, Olave, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Emeka is the guy with the most receiving yards. So, I think he's probably going to have a pretty modest production in 2025, just kind of as he has to wait for playing time behind Evans and Godwin. But in dynasty formats, him and McMillan are, I think are going to form a really nice duo for years to come. I think in his kind of looking at, obviously I've been watching a ton of his highlights as he's a new Buck. His game actually kind of reminds me of Chris Godwin, where he's not the fastest by any means. He's not like some big jump ball guy going up for anything. He's just kind of like a steady producer, good hands, great route running, just kind of working what's available, a lot of slot stuff, but hits you deep every now and then too. So just a really well-polished wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think the landing spot for him was great. Obviously, with Baker, Baker's got some juice left in the tank, clearly, I'd say for at least another 4 years. So Tampa Bay's trying to make a run, and they saw what happened last year, right? Evans got hurt, Godwin got hurt.
Sure.
McMillan obviously did this thing and stepped up, but like now they have somewhat of a security blanket, first round pick. And you mentioned all those Ohio State receivers. So again, we talk about breakout age being such an important factor when it comes to wide receiver production in the NFL. There's data that correlates with this. As a sophomore, he was competing with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Not that far behind.
Sophomore. Not far behind. He had 100 less yards, 4 less touchdowns that year. And we're talking about the guy who went off the board, top 10 pick wide receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. He ended up getting hurt in the following year. And honestly, that was a deep wide receiver class. And so he came back and just popped off again and, put up another 1,000-yard, 10 touchdown season. So all the data looks good. He looks like a great wide receiver. I am a little bit worried about Jalen McMillan, though. I know he has shown flashes. He looks great. But will he see enough opportunities to continue to be relevant in that offense, or will somebody else step up and kind of take his place?
In Dynasty, what is funny, because our last episode we kind of talked about Dynasty buy lows, and my 2 buy lows were Dak, who just had his value shoot up with adding Jordan Pickens, and then McMillan, who just had his value go down with us drafting Emeka. But what I think is actually even a better buy low opportunity for him now.
I would agree with you
because he's dropping
yes.
in Dynasty alone. In 2025, sure, not going to be anything crazy, but because they play kind of different routes, or different positions. Like McMillan's kind of more of your deep ball guy. So he's going to have a role in the offense going forward for sure. They're going to kind of pair off of each other. So. Yeah, but yes, I would say his dynasty value took a shot with that draft pick.
And I would say that is when I feel like you buy these types of players, right? Like Jalen Coker, McMillan, everybody was buying the hype around them and all the, from last year and giving up crazy stuff. And now their value is dropped. That's when you buy. So I would agree with you in that perspective, especially if you believe in the player. But this pick reminds me of JSN, right? Came into Seattle. Crowded wide receiver room, DK, Tyler Lockett in front of him. He kind of got, he got some opportunities. He only saw about 600, 700 yards, nothing crazy. And then a year later, he's their guy, essentially. So I just see that. It looks very familiar from a dynasty perspective and a wide receiver perspective.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And have you heard about Godwin's recovery at all? Because, if he's not 100%, maybe he even gets slotted
as of now, they're saying they expect him there week 1. But, it'll kind of be, you'll see how training camp goes.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Next pick is Omarion Hampton, running back, Los Angeles Chargers. Pick 22, first round running back. How you feeling about Hampton?
Man, talk about hype trains dying out. That Najee Harris, the Chargers hype train is dead. Hampton's going to a Chargers team that loves to run the ball. Harbaugh loves to run the ball. Greg Roman, who's their OC, he has only once in his decade-plus career ever not been top 10 in rushing attempts. So this man is going to get fed. Najee, might be the de facto starter for the start of the season, first couple games, just till Hampton kind of proves that he can protect Herbert's backside on an NFL level. But I think this kid is going to absolutely feast this year. I'm putting him at my 102 spot over Tet in Dynasty. And then redraft, he's probably 4th round pick for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think I do see him from a redraft perspective being potentially running back 10-ish range, 10 to 20 range. I am worried a little bit more about Najee than some people are. I did the data and the numbers, and if let's say we see a 60-40 backfield and then a 70-30 backfield as the season goes on, he's getting about 245 carries, about 32 targets. So that lands him historically in that running back 10 to running back 20 range, unless he can be Bucky Irving type of production type, that year. And JK maybe is coming back, right? Nobody's picked him up. They have his, they have his rights or whatever. So maybe he comes back. But yeah, I have him as my 103 in Dynasty. I have it in a team situation. So if you need wide receiver, you go Tet. If you need running back, you go Omarion. I don't think there's much difference from a prospect perspective.
For sure.
This is a crazy stat. So they do, it's called Relative Athletic Score. It's RAS. If you haven't heard about it, go check it out. But they essentially evaluate the athletic score of players, and they look at all of their data when it comes to 40 times, size, weight,
combine
height,
stuff,
all those types of things. Yep. And just look at their athleticism. What does it look like? So going back to 1987 and over 1,900 different running backs, Omarion Hampton is 43 out of 1,900 different running backs in the lifetime of this score. So he is, top 50 when it comes to an athletic talent. And he was him, Jeanty, and RJ Harvey, shout out, go Knights, were the only three running backs that produced at a high level, had over 1,500 yards, back-to-back seasons in college, multiple touchdowns, and he's a receiving back threat. So he kind of checks all the boxes. And you were talking about Harborough having, just run-focused, run-heavy offense. I went back and looked at his college career, and when he was at Stanford, Toby Gerhart was his guy. He ran that man into the ground. 49ers, Frank Gore ran that man into the ground. Michigan, it was Hassan Hoskins as well as Blake Corum. whenever those guys were there, they got ran in the ground. And we saw it last year, like J.K. Dobbins. Like, he was an amazing talent. He got the job done. Yeah. If he didn't get injured, he would have been on pace for 270 carries. So there wasn't a split backfield, right? Like 270 is great for a certain running back, and they just spent first-round talent on him. So I'm high on Omarion Hampton. I think if Jeanty wasn't in this class, and this class wasn't so deep, like if we're looking at last year type of situation where there's maybe 1 or 2 running backs that are top 2 picks, he's going, I think, top 10, top 15, and the Chargers just lucked out and, hit gold with this pick. So yeah, I like it a lot. Talking about gold, the next pick off the board was Matthew Golden.
Great
wide
transition.
Receiver. You like that? Oh, smooth. Wide receiver, Green Bay Packers. He was picked 23. So big deal on Green Bay.
Man, I am not touching this receiver room with a 10-foot pole.
I know you talked about this before.
Wicks, Dobbs, Watson, and now you got Golden, all fighting for targets on an offense led by Jordan Love, who only attempted 425 passes last year. That's good for 19th in the NFL.
He was injured.
They should have been the ones trying to trade a receiver to Dallas today instead of the Steelers swooping in there.
Jeez.
I mean, Dobbs and Watson are both on a contract year this year, so there's a chance they're gone by 2026, and it's gotten cleared up a little bit. So sure, maybe like decent from a dynasty standpoint, I'll give you that. But for 2025 redraft, he'd have to be real cheap for me to get him on my team. Like I just have redraft. I'm like, we'll see. Dynasty, sure, he's around. He's probably, I don't know, wide receiver like 5 or 6 probably.
Yeah, I mean, so this is a big deal. The Packers, after 20 years, people are underselling this. After 20 years, the Packers said, I am going to draft a skill positions player because my quarterback needs it, and we have no wide receivers. Like, this was a statement not just to the world about, hey, Matthew Golden is our guy, but that wide receiver room, like, y'all have done bupkis for the past 3 years. And it shows in the data. So I dug into this. I know it's crowded. Like, it appears to be crowded, but for the past 3 years, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, they've just not stepped up to be the alpha. Okay. And to prove that, last year, Tucker Kraft, who was the tight end for the Packers, he led them in routes run last year. Like, why would a tight end do that if you have other alphas in the room? So I am high that Green Bay wants Golden to be the guy. Now, will that happen? I'm not certain. But they're desperately looking for that X receiver, and he played 75% of his snaps out wide in college. So he fits that mold. Obviously, there's worry there that he could get bottled up. Also, his yards per route run in college versus man coverage was 0.92, which is terrible. Like, usually, historically, if it's under 2, the NFL receivers typically do not have a good college career. Brian Thomas Jr. was like the first one to break the mold, I want to say, in such a long time. That was one of the reasons why I was low on him. Obviously, I was wrong in that situation. But I think he has the opportunity to be wide receiver.
Wrong last year. That
I was
wrong again.
I was wrong. I'm not saying Golden's going to be like this elite wide receiver immediately, but he has the chance to. And think about the upside, right? If you get this right, like I have him as like a late first round wide receiver, like 1010 area, 111 for me for Dynasty. If this hits, right, it's a late round pick. You probably won the championship last year. He's now wide receiver 1 on the Green Bay Packers, attached to Jordan Love, who's a young quarterback. Like, it is a juicy upside, and he has the opportunity to be wide receiver 1. So I'm not selling him out yet. I think some of his data doesn't look great. Some of his routes that he ran in college didn't look fantastic, but he's great at zone coverage, and the NFL runs like 70 to 80% of zone. So, I mean, he's able to move the chain. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not selling him out just yet. Redraft though, yeah, I might take a flyer on Golden late based on how high.
Late for sure.
Because rookie wide receivers, again, last year, if anything is anything, I'm changing my scheme a little bit, because last year I took 0 rookie wide receivers. I always usually avoid rookies, but they seem to be coming out of the league better prepared. So
I'm just saying, and by no means am I reaching for him in redraft. It's one of those you get the last couple rounds, or as Ashton, last couple dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You want to throw a dart throw. That's fine. Ooh, that's another great transition for us. Speaking of dart throws,
that was smooth. You can finish it. Go ahead. Yeah,
quarterback selected for the New York Giants at pick 25, Jackson Dart.
You got it, Jackson Dart.
Would have been a lot funnier if they took Sanders, though.
Why would that have been funnier?
I don't know, because I think it would have crashed and burned in more epic fashion.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you're not high on Dart. So how are you feeling about this guy?
No, I'm not high on Dart, not high on Sanders. I mean, this was just an incredibly weak quarterback class. I mean, if and when, it's a big if, Jackson Dart even sees the field in 2025, he's got one job. Throw the rock to neighbors, and that is it. That's all anyone in the fantasy world is going to care about. If he does that, everyone will be like, all right, man, you did good. If he doesn't, people are going to be pissed. But, I mean, most likely he's going to sit for, I'd assume a good half of the season behind either Russ or maybe Jameis. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he comes out and looks great in preseason and they get excited. I mean, Brian Daboll's got to be on a hot seat by now.
He's on the hot seat.
So he might just be like, sacrifice the rookie just to be like, oh, well, we suck because we had a rookie quarterback. Just kind of use an excuse to kind of gain him one more year. Who knows? But I mean, for the most part, redraft, I'm not touching him at all. Dynasty, maybe if it's super flex, you're kind of intrigued a little bit just on the gamble of it. But I mean, not super flex dynasty. I'm not taking him anywhere high, probably like in the top 20.
Yeah. So Dabo's on the hot seat. Joe Schoen is also on the hot seat as the GM. And I honestly think they brought in Russ and Jameis to win football games now, because if they don't, they're out of there. They're out of there next year. It's just not going to work out. So honestly, if Dart comes in this year, it probably means that they're having a terrible season right away. They're not winning football games. They're getting pressure from the fans to be like, start your rookie quarterback, as well as from, higher ups being like, dude, start this
New York media
drafted in the first round. Yep. New York media. So if he comes in and plays, I really think it's going to hurt him overall. And I think next year, now he has a new head coach. Now he has a new offensive scheme, and now he's got to start fresh. And this is a guy out of, I think he was out of Ole Miss, who they ran the typical, RPO. They ran a one read offense where he only had to make typically one read, and he was very efficient at that. I think he had one of the highest first read completion percentages in the league at like 90 something, not completion percentage, but like results around 90 something percent, very close to Cam Ward. But his second read offense was like 60%, and he was like 60th in all college football when he had to go to his second read. So he has to learn how to run an NFL style offense.
Yeah, it's like, how often in the NFL do you get that first read? Basically never. So
unless it's neighbors, maybe. I mean, right? Ooh. Like maybe it's if he's got at least that security blanket. And his situation from a talent perspective, I feel like New York has done a great job. And it's going to sound crazy, but like, you have Malik Neighbors on the outside, who is an elite alpha wide receiver. You have Wan'Dale Robinson, who isn't anything flashy, but he gets the job done. He's 24 years old, right? Whether you believe it or not, he almost broke 900 yards last year. So we're looking at like a Jacoby type of situation. Tyrone Tracy is a young running back who can catch, right? He's good out of the backfield. We saw him being efficient on the ground, and they just drafted Cam Scabadito at, so around, I think it was the second or third pick. So they now have a good young talent around Dart, and if Dart can work out, I mean, do we see another Giants dynasty kicking off? Like, if he works out, right? Like, you have all these young talent that have years on their contracts, and maybe they start building the trenches and they start doing those other things that they've needed to do. So, also, Dart's rushing upside is phenomenal. He in college ran for 1,500 yards in the 3 years where he was a starter. He has some of the most experience because he started for 3 years. And we took that in the fantasy perspective. We're talking like 2 to 5 rushing points a game which is a big deal.
Okay.
I know it doesn't seem like a lot.
You love a rushing quarterback.
I do love rushing quarterbacks. I love that upside, but 2 to 5 points is a big deal, especially if he throws for 1 touchdown and 200 yards. Like, that's not a big deal. Terrible quarterback, but now he's rushing for 5 points. So you're sitting at a 20-point range. So he's, a starter. So the upside, I think, is better for Dart than it is for Cam Ward. So I think the upside's better for him just because of that rushing. So, all right, but that'll do it for us today, folks. We appreciate y'all listening. If you like what you heard, give us a like and subscribe. If not, appreciate you hanging out. As always, thanks for following, and go steal a championship. We'll catch y'all later.
Peace.